Hey everyone, welcome to the Vito X Dino podcast. This is not going to be your typical episode, and which is weird because this is the 14th episode, and here we are changing up the format. But it's just a special episode. We wanted to spotlight Dean's book Chess Face. This is actually one of the Kickstarter rewards. Am I right, Dean?
It is one of the Kickstarter rewards. Normally, what I do is me, Whitney, and Matt Champagne do a Zoom party that nobody ever sees or hears, and so you can only imagine what happens. It's quite Vegas. Hey George, what's up, man? How you doing? But because we've been doing this podcast, I was like, well, let's put it on the podcast. Let's
Yeah.
let's record it, and if we need to edit some stuff out or whatever, that's for you to do.
Yeah, that's for me to do.
That's for you
Which
to do.
my inclination is to not edit anything. I think that's kind of the beauty of it.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
depending on, you know, we do mark these things as not for children. So
Right. I mean, why would children want to listen to this? Except the ones who would see your children running around naked in your basement toilet bathroom
toilet office,
situation over there.
my
Toilet
bathroom
office.
office, like Fonzie.
And if you see, I don't know if the pair of hands can say hello, so the camera can shift to the pair of hands.
Hello,
So you,
I can switch. I'll there we go. Ooh,
It's
oh,
Bob Fingerman.
wow.
there it is. There he is, Bob Fingerman, for everyone to I don't know what.
In the
Well,
flesh.
so Bob has a setup where he can either show his face or show his hands drawing, and I just basically mandated that he would draw a chest face or something while hanging out with us, and then I suggested, wait, why don't you draw a new paramorph at chest face, and we'll call the character Side Boob, but I don't know what Bob's going to draw.
That's kind of the fun of it. We don't know what he's going to draw yet. It's
And
almost
Bob's
like
not saying anything, so we can't see his mug right now.
it's kind of like a Sesame Street thing where they watch.
This is off to a rocky start. You're already
Hey, Rocky, right? Chest face is
backing
pretty
me up
rocky.
against the wall.
That's
Haven't
right.
have you not watched our show? It's all Rocky starts.
Oh
It's all
yeah.
right. Rocky starts and rocky conclusions.
Oh my goodness, you should name a character Rocky Starts, Dean.
Rocky starts?
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't feel it, Vito. I'm not feeling it.
Anyway,
You got to feel these things. In our latter years, you have to really want to do it,
I'm
right?
not ready for the Catskills yet.
Oh, well, Catskills humor or Catskills
Yes,
Mountains just retreat type thing?
just all of it.
All of it.
Call me
Okay.
Yes
All right.
Face.
Yeah. So there's Bob drawing, which once in a while Bob should say something so we can see him
I,
drawing.
I I will happily yammer while I'm doing this. You just, what do you got to lob me some softballs and then I'll see what I can do.
Well, I guess part of the beginning here, and I just want to say everybody hi to not John Towsen, but Nat Towsen. I don't know who
I'm
John
work.
is.
We don't have the technology to change it yet. I'm working. I'm working towards a solution that will get my correct name over Zoom, but unfortunately, it may be 5 to 10 years in the future.
What's the origin of John?
My dad was logged in on this computer and is logged out, but somehow no one's logged in on Zoom because you sent me the link, so I don't need an account to log in. And now it's like permanently, it's like branded in because there's no like I can't tell what's causing it. There's no one's logged in on this computer at all, and nevertheless, there's a ghost of my dad's name,
Oh my God, I love it. So
which I'm trying to fix right now. But
is it like an existential horror for you, or do you like this? Is this a good thing?
it's more just that like if I'd like people to check out my comedy, it would be nice if my correct name were displayed. You
That's
know,
that is
I'm looking at it from a more practical angle.
This is like when was it a politician or a businessman or something where he couldn't get the animated cat face
Yeah, it was
of
like a
his face
British
during an important
BBC
meeting.
talking head.
So, you're a leg up from that at least.
I'm glad you said that and not the guy who got caught masturbating on CNN or
No,
whatever.
no Jeffrey Tubin.
Tubin, yeah.
We're not Tubin here.
His name
It
is
wasn't,
Tubin.
but that was
Yeah.
an accident, right? That was an accident, right? He didn't intend to
He didn't mean to masturbate. His penis
Can
just
you
fell into his hand while he was on CNN.
Yeah, I don't know how accidental
His
it
hand
is.
was moving like this already, like,
That's right. You know.
Yeah, he got hit by a bus that caused him to masturbate on live television. Yeah, it was an accident.
Off to a great
All
start, Dean.
Wait, I'll be right there. I'm getting a drink myself. Sorry. Hold on.
Well, I want to introduce somebody else that's in our room. The lovely Whitney Matheson is here.
What's going on, Whitney?
Oh, hi. Hi, Nat. I haven't seen you in a while. How are you
I know
doing?
it's been a minute. Were you at Mocha this year?
No, because Dean and I were in New Haven, Connecticut for what's the full IC3? What was the full name of it?
It's Indie
Oh,
Comics Creators Con.
Yeah.
yes. A couple of friends of mine went to that. My buddy does this comic called Orange Flavor, and it's like it's kind of cool. It's like an I wonder if I have a copy of it handy, but it's like anthology style. So he'll like cartoon in 8 different styles in one issue and just do little like really short gag strips and stuff. But they were up there for the weekend with a few of my friends. If you saw a table that had like a giant gumball machine, that's them. They were like
I think I remember
selling
that.
toys in a big gumball machine.
It was a great show. The way they advertised it was all killer, no filler. And I think it's pretty much true. Every table you could go to, there was something great, and it was all comics, and there wasn't any Funko Pop toys or whatever the hell those things are, and and
Other
there were
than my friend's
retailers.
gumball machine, but yeah,
Other than that, right?
those are custom made.
I love it. I love
Did
that
they
stuff.
have?
And
Did they have those like you know how like some artists will sell prints and they have like those big towers of prints and stuff? Did they have any of that?
Maybe.
oh no, not at all.
Really?
Not at all.
Oh,
You mean
no,
where
not like
You know what I'm talking about, right? Like how
Yeah, it's like
Oh, like
knockoffs or
it,
bad
no.
drawings or AI or whatever.
or,
Like
or
no,
like just over-rendered computer coloring kind of thing.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Oh,
That's
No,
like
it
half
was-
of the NYCC con floor at this point. Is like
Well, yeah.
very,
they have-
very shiny looking, hypersexualized licensed properties, the legality of which is confusing to me.
Yeah, they have
Exactly.
those, and they have those big T-shirt towers. Like at the
Mhm.
bigger shows.
Oh yeah.
I do like the T-shirt towers because once in a while I'll find like an old school type, Hulk or whatever, or
And then you'll
something.
say, "Does it come in black?" And they say no, and then you walk away.
I don't wear these shirts. I give them to Jen. I make her wear the shirts. But the thing I really loved about IC3 was it reminded me of early Small Press Expo, SPX in Bethesda,
Oh,
Maryland.
Yeah.
And like artists would just be hanging out after the show. They'd be all at the same, hotel bar, and everyone's still drawing or doing jams or having conversations, like you didn't get to have during the day because everyone's at their tables trying to sell something. So it was a great congregation of indie talent from rookies to veterans. It was great. It was awesome. Hey, Bob, say something. I want people to see this.
Well, I mean, the thing about Chestface is you duly informed us he was a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
I wanted to see more of him doing some crowd work, and we didn't see his tight five. We saw his closers. All we saw were, and that's why she, whatever. It's just
That's right.
where was the material? That's what I was craving, was you
Well-
writing a bunch of stand-up material, and you left me hanging here. So if I got to bring in classic 1980s stand-up comedian with the jacket with the unconstructed shoulders and sleeves rolled up, and I mean
I
I
that's.
love it.
But
I
plus,
love
I
it.
don't want to draw him nude. That's your thing.
Is that well, aren't all comedians or all good comedians, aren't they practically nude, Bob?
I suppose.
Or John Nat Towsen?
You mean if
Mr.
they're
Nat.
like being really honest with their stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, I
By
thought
the
you
way-
meant that there is like a naked comedy show in New York.
Ugh.
What? Come
Well,
on.
that's one way to react to my body, but ugh. It's not the sound I love to hear the most, but I don't begrudge you a human reaction.
Oh my God. Oh wait, are you putting clothes on him, Bob?
I
That's what
told
he's
you,
saying.
I just said that.
It's shame.
But I didn't think it was going to really happen. I've never seen
This-
Chest Face with clothes.
What I like about Dean as an interviewer is he doesn't listen to his guests. That's
You
that's
know
ver
why
that's
I was
verisimilitude for you. It's just like real life.
I was first of all, I listen to you way more than most people should.
Yeah, well, that's probably true.
But no, I was basing it on your drawing until I noticed a collar and sleeve. I was like, he really is putting clothes on him. Then again, I did have Chest Face running with a hoodie at the beginning of Chest Face.
Yes.
And then somebody asked me, how can he see through the hoodie? That was a good question.
Pretty
Very
good
good
question.
question.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. He had a
Look, pull
hoodie.
up here, the first
Oh,
page.
no, I got it. I got it. I'm
Got pants
prepared.
on too.
I'm
How,
prepared.
now he takes it off pretty soon, but how the hell is he running in the streets away from a guy with a bazooka with
Maybe it's very thin material.
thank you, and you get a no prize just for that.
Okay.
That's
I
not
haven't.
ink, that's a dark black pencil.
Yeah.
Can for us comic book artist nerds, what is that pencil? Because I want to try that out.
Does it show? It's the Mars Lumograph Black.
And is it like a 5B or something? Is it does it have numbers and
It
letters?
is. You're very close. 6B.
6B. Holy mackerel. I might want to try that as an inking tool rather than using ink. Uh-oh, something just happened. What happened?
Yeah, I was about to say that's super wild. I was kind of having a dissonance between like, wait a minute.
You're talking about Bob's inking or
Oh my
drawing?
God. So yeah, I was like, I'm very confused here. But yeah, that's a pencil. That's awesome.
It's pretty damn cool. I don't know where our Matt Champagne is. Should I text
I
him
will
or
text him.
could you text him?
Yeah.
All right, so then this portion of the show for whoever shows up is to, if anybody had a question or had a comment about the comic book, Chest Face, which was my fourth crowdfunded comic, and I've been doing this now for about 2.5 years. I've been crowdfunding comics and basically living off of that, which is crazy. I'm barely living off of it, but I have been, and so I've been totally appreciative. And it's been wild because you don't know how people are going to respond. In fact, Vito, you've done crowdfunding.
Yep.
Bob had a crowdfund. Have you done only one, Bob?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you did pretty well with that.
I think so. Yeah, it was pretty
You
good.
did it on Zoop, right, Bob?
Correct.
And again, the name of the project?
It was like a career retrospective called "That's Some Business You're In."
That's right.
Title courtesy of my late dad.
Yep.
Not that he knew it was going to be a title of anything. That was just his overall assessment of my career.
Well, he wasn't totally wrong.
No, he was 100% right. The longer my dad is no longer with us, the more I've come to realize he was right about a lot of things. But what are you going to do?
And he was a guy that lived on the sea, basically, right, for a while.
He lived on the sea. Before my time, he was never a seafaring man once I was part of the world. But no, as he was wont to do, he would remind me every so often with a wistful look in his eye that he gave up his life at sea for me.
Oh boy.
There you
Jeez.
go.
Thanks, Dad. I love you too.
Sorry you have to work in an office. I didn't ask to be born. Classic kid responses. I didn't ask to be born.
I didn't ask. Well, all right. Did anybody have it? Like Bob, did you read the comic? Since we're talking to you, the Chest Face.
What is this again?
Oh my God.
That's a real coincidence that he's drawing him, though.
It is.
That's really incredible.
Is he drawing it? Is his belt way up on his chest there?
No, but he does have pretty high-waisted pants,
Jesus.
This is horrible 80s clothes, In fact, actually, the pants have to be much more balloony.
Oh boy, look at that art directing and everything.
That's
all right.
right.
So besides not getting any Chest Face jokes, which by the way, that's part of the joke of the comic, okay, guys, was that you don't get any jokes, okay? You do get a sense of maybe what his look at Matt Champagne just laughing. You don't get jokes, but
you could do a follow-up though. You could do the Chest Face joke book.
Well, I because of how well people responded to this first comic, I have started writing and plotting out the next one. And part of it is going to have actual chest face jokes in it, I think. I just don't know what they are because one of the things that I want to talk to Nat about later is what he thinks chest face humor might be and or what style of humor. And I actually have my thoughts about it as well. So that's a conversation I want to have with Nat. And maybe
That
even
that was that,
That's
that was
good because
also my approach to comedy. You're not supposed to get my jokes. Like when you know what I mean? Like I was the comic that when people wouldn't laugh, I was like, yes, that's what I'm going
perfect.
for.
that's the response. So
Yeah,
Matt,
I was so good at it, you know, that
you're
You-
too good at it.
You could get that response every time.
Yes.
yeah, I was very
Wow.
consistent.
Effortless.
So the thing, I remember one time Matt was in town because he lives in California. Matt, we have a Nat and a Matt. Nat is in Brooklyn and Matt is in LA. So and Bob's in Burbank, right? Or
No. How long have I lived here?
I don't. You were in Burbank, right?
7 years ago.
Oh
Bob
my
and
God,
I
it's
are
been 7
neighbors.
years. Jesus Christ. Okay. So I was gonna say real quick, Matt Champagne. I was curating like a variety show at I forget a Union Hall or something like that. And and Larry O'Neill said, "Oh, Matt's a funny guy. He does comedy. Bring him on." So you know, not sight unheard, but you know what I mean, sight unseen or whatever, or unheard.
Yeah.
I was like, bring up Matt. Matt gets on stage. And do you remember the
Yeah.
joke you told?
I told the story of this really awful dude who did something really awful, and he got sentenced to 1,000 years of prison. The judge gave him 1,000 years. And so I just did a bit where the judge was calculating that out. You know, like, okay, you did this. Oh, wow. I got to give you 400 for that. And then, oh, shit, you did that too. I got to give you another 175 for that. And then I got to give you 300 for this other stuff that you did. Hold on. Let me see if I got this right. And then I just did a big math problem, like the judge coming up with, and that's going to come to 1,000 years for you, sir. And that was
But part of the joke
bit.
was
Now,
the physical.
did you hear the utter lack of people laughing while I was doing that bit? That's
No,
the
but
kind of comedy I do.
but what I'm
Chase
sitting
and
there
I-
dying because Matt is
Jeff Chase and I
tabulating.
have a lot in common.
So Matt is tabulating with his fingers the whole time, like he's trying to do a math problem the whole time. And then he gets really quiet at one point. And then once in a while it says, "Oh, another 300." Okay. And everyone's sitting there at the audience is like they're waiting for the joke to happen, but the joke is happening, right? And so I'm the only person like stifling I got the joke and I start cracking up because not only is it funny, but it's failing hard, this joke. And I realize, oh wait, is that Matt's sense of humor? Is this what he's going for?
And this was the inspiration for Chest Face, right?
Well, partially maybe because I think that when you read Chest Face, I hope there's a heart to it and you feel maybe a little bad for the guy, right? And sad. So I don't know if he does punchlines or if he does like setups and what kind of humor is that called when you just throw out a one line and then the punchline happens? Those are quick, right?
That's a one-liner.
A one
That's a
line.
one-liner.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then there's the story version, which we'll get into later, which is I think what Chest Face does more of. Tells a story, you know. All right. So was there any other responses? Because I want to bring on somebody soon. But was there any other responses to the comic or criticisms of the humor or the lack of humor?
I want to make sure that everyone watching knows this isn't actually the first appearance of Chest Face. Isn't that right?
That's true. Chest Face first appeared in a comic. Was it 100 pages or 80 page?
80 page.
80 page Titan-sized comic of Spider Squirrel and Trash Panda. And I don't remember that was the exact title of the book. Do you have it, Vito?
I might just keep vamping.
But so I basically wanted to create a character for Charlie McKelvey's Zion universe an independent publisher, and
Here
I
it
came
is.
up with what's it called? Spider Squirrel.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
actually called the Spider Squirrel and Trash Panda Titan Size Special by
There you go. There
Zion
you go.
Comics. This is the actual Baltimore special. That was the Howard Chaykin homage cover.
To American Flag.
Yeah.
So, and you have stuff in there as well.
I did lettering. I didn't actually write
Right.
anything.
Right. So I wanted to create a character, and in creating a character, I don't remember if I came up with the name first or the drawing. I think I might have come up with the name Chestface first. And then I was like, well, what's Chestface? And what does he look like? So then I was like, well, one of my favorite characters is the Thing from the Fantastic Four. And so I kind of tried to draw around that, but because his face is on his chest, he wasn't going to have a head, you know? And then I was like, well, what does he do? And I was like, well, maybe he's a stand-up comedian. And I don't know where that came from because I've had no designs or desires of becoming a stand-up comedian, but I definitely appreciate stand-up comedy. And I thought, well, maybe that would be funny. He's funny looking, so maybe he's a funny guy. But then, what?
I mean, because it's a humor thing, was Gossamer part of his evolution too?
No, Gossamer
That
was
was
like,
fun.
so Gossamer from Bugs Bunny, the big pink, was he like a furry monster with sneakers or something, right?
Yeah.
Who we all grew up and loved, I assume.
But he
Maybe he was in
wasn't-
the sub. He
Yeah,
what?
maybe just in the back of your head somewhere.
Had to be subconscious.
lurking?
Had to be. Had to be. And then other people have pointed out that there are famous mythological creatures from the 1600s that are headless with their face on their chest. I forget what they're called. I can't even pronounce these words. But yeah, so maybe it's in the ether or something. And I was like, well, let me come up with a bit. He's a comedian that's basically on the run from an evil corporation that mutated him, right? But he's trying to get his hour. So he's doing 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, while mercenaries are coming after him to destroy him because they're trying to erase, the corporation's trying to erase their mistake. So that's all I got. That's what I had. And that was where I did this 6-page comic, in and out. It was fun. People liked it. And with that in mind, I was like, well, maybe I need to expand this story. And that's where the fully formed issue number 1, as it were, of Chestface evolved. And now I'm going to do another one, I hope.
And it was kind of within Charlie's, I don't want to say his universe, but like it was your creator owned property, your IP within Charlie's IP, which I think is kind of fascinating as well.
Well, we've talked about as independent creators, there's Marvel and DC, and like sometimes they'll do a crossover comic book, and eventually that's going to happen in the movies. Give it 10 years or less, ultimately. There's going to be some kind of crossover when basically the one giant corporation owns everything. It's going to be Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel, DC, Game of Thrones, whatever, just the
That's
next big book
franchise.
Book. Oh, it is basically, right?
Yeah,
so
he did that on Parks and Rec, I think.
Oh, it was at his filibuster, his Cory Booker?
Yeah.
But you and I have talked with Charlie and other independent creators, the fact that we can give Grant the right to have my character cross over with your character and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And there's no real legalese as long as we've given permission or we might say, well, let me just check the dialogue or write the dialogue or whatever, so.
We just want to be involved in it.
Exactly.
Whitney raised her hand. I love her.
So does that mean I could do a comic called Chestface meets Harry Dean Stanton?
All right. Let me tell you guys the origin of this Harry Dean Stanton thing. Because if you go online right now, Whitney drew Harry Dean Stanton, and it's brilliant.
I don't know. It's not.
I don't know how she did it, but it's a perfect rendering, cartoon rendering of Harry Dean Stanton. But where did it come from? It came from me telling Whitney this morning. Was it about me talking about bootleg comics?
Yes.
So we were talking about bootleg comics and how Monty Keene does bootleg Spider-Man, and then he just did a bootleg Wolverine comic, and how other people have done bootleg comics. And then I was talking to Vito this morning about a bootleg comic that we won't talk about, right? Not yet, Vito? Correct?
Yeah, we should wait a little bit because we're still developing it. But it's actually a concept that you brought up to me earlier.
Right, and then we'll keep it at that for now. But with that in mind, I said something about how, like, what people like to use popular characters like Deadpool, Spider-Man, Wolverine And then you immediately, Whitney, said, "Oh, I want to do a bootleg comic, Harry Dean Stanton versus Wolverine." Oh no, Harry. You said
Dean
Harry
meets Wolverine. Yeah, that's a much
Harry
catchier
Dean
title.
meets Wolverine. That's
You
right.
didn't? Yeah.
And I was like, I have to see that. I have to see that. Anyway, we laughed. I went back to my laptop, and about 10 minutes later, Whitney shows me this drawing of Harry Dean Stanton that I'm still, I admire it so much. I trust me, everybody, go look at this drawing. It's unbelievable. And it's unbelievable because of the reductive art that comics is or can be.
Because it's like
right?
a child drew Harry Dean Stanton. Like
no, but it's undeniably Harry Dean Stanton. And so now I was thinking, you have to do Harry Dean Stanton comics, right? So I'm looking forward to that. Hey, Bob, do you want to show the final piece of art you did before we move on?
I was trying to find this Harry Dean Stanton.
On my desk.
It's on Facebook.
I kind of disabled the other camera. This is a hacky drawing for, it's a hacky comedian drawing. It's tap is this thing on. So very hacky.
Cool.
I love it.
Hacky drawing, but I earned my keep for being here.
I will say this. It's a great drawing. Thank you very much. I'm honored. Number two, you know what's weird about the hackiness of it? What was the one word in there? Is this thing on? Oh. And so it's loosely based on the thing. Look at that Harry Dean Stanton drawing.
That's a cool drawing.
It's so good. I don't know how you did it, Whitney. I could not have pulled that off.
I feel the need for meth coming off that drawing.
Dean, I just want to point out.
Is Chris okay? There's only so long I could be in a Zoom meeting with an empty box. Like there's just a red square with a blood red curtain and a name with Chris, but no person. And
that's the lining of his coffin.
I waited for someone to comment on it, and no one has.
I know.
Chris, are you okay?
I think what you're seeing is a comedy club. That's the backdrop.
Yeah.
My understanding is
it's his death shroud.
Yeah,
we're gonna get there soon, party people.
That's his POV.
Nat, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, you're discussing potential second issues, and I was curious. Well, first of all, I do remember that in one of the later pages of the book, the villainous scientist reaches for a syringe, and they're labeled with chest face and force meat characters we've seen. I've got it right here, in fact, on my iPad. But there's also Skyroid and 6 Dicks.
Yes.
So I'm just saying there's room for, mysterious, you're not going to see it over the video of a screen, but there's room for expansion there. Have these been used yet? Are these people out in the wild? Are there more villains?
So part of that was a little bit of Easter egg that I gave myself without even knowing, which is also part of the fun of creativity, right? Sometimes you'll write some ideas and you'll be like, I don't know what that is right now. I have to figure it out later. And I've done that in The Red Hook. I've done that with other comics I've worked on. And so I definitely was like, well, what can I put in these syringes that could also be monsters? And 6 Dicks is definitely going to be in the sequel. I don't know what Skyroid is yet, but I do like the title of that. And if I may, and I know we're on, this is also a podcast, but I believe, let me see if I can find it. I did come up with I don't know if I can find it. Oh, here. So this was the working image for the next Chest Face book. So let me know if you can see what this, can you see this?
Yeah.
And do you see that there's Chest Face looking at Shadow, but the Shadow has a head?
Yeah.
Ah.
Is that his former self? Oh, are we going to get a flashback?
Oh.
Chest Face Origins head face? Two colons in the title. Chest Face : Origins : head face.
But maybe he's having
head face is a great joke.
Thank you, Bob.
Wait, what? How? What do you mean?
It's a great joke.
I'm saying the prequel version of Chest Face is head face.
It is. It could be
before he got experimented on, and when he in his narrative, he had a little heat on his career and a face on his head. So you could do a little flashback about when he was good before he took the dip and then started becoming self-aware.
At one point in New York, I remember there were graffitis of a neck face.
Yeah. It was one of the only legible tags, so everyone knew it because the guy was just writing like block letters almost, or straight line letters, neck face. Yeah.
I love that. All right. So before we move on to the next bit, did anybody else have any more responses? George, how you doing over there? Over in Chicago.
Hold me down. No, I really enjoyed the comic. I always text you after we have a phone conversation after I get through the strip, and I didn't know what necessarily to expect from this thing. I did notice that there were no jokes, but in a way that, like, I was like, okay, this is a choice, and you are someone who is intentional, and I've really appreciated the. I know you as a person outside of your art. Like, I've known you for many years now, and I've appreciated the personality that you put into your work, in as much as, like, I'm a cartoonist telling this story, but I'm also like a human being who has lived experiences, and I feel like knowing you away from the drafting table, it gives the work a lot of gravity. I really appreciate it. I thought it was a nice piece of work.
Well, thanks, George. And actually, George, before we get to Matt, George, when I did COVID Cop, did this incredible theme for COVID Cop, because he's a musician as well as an artist. And I mean, not to ask you to do a theme for Chest Face, but if you get inspired someday, please, that'd be awesome. And real quick, there was something else when you were talking about the no jokes. Oh, and the intentional. There was something else. Now I'm forgetting. All right, so Matt, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say, to write something about a comedian that doesn't tell any jokes is very relevant. That is very in right now in stand-up comedy. I don't know if you're familiar with crowd work.
Oh, yes, I know of crowd work. Well, crowd work is where you insult the people that paid to come see you.
No.
Right?
Oh, don't give it too much. Don't compliment it too much. Crowd work is basically, so what do? And then the person says something, and then you pretend like what they just said, even though it could be the most boring or mundane thing. Mm-hmm. You pretend like it's the most outrageous thing you've ever heard. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? I work in finance. Finance? like what they just said is absolutely ridiculous.
No, Matt, I don't think that's fair. I think sometimes crowd
there
work
are some people who do good crowd work.
Yeah, like some people ask two people in the audience if they're dating, and then when they get uncomfortable, they make fun of them for that. Like, that's another one, That's a valid art form. You go, oh, he doesn't know. She thinks they are. He thinks they are. You do that, and then you do pick two more people, and you do that, and then you maybe pick two guys. You're like, gay, or they do,
right.
So it's different every time. Oh, you could say, are you on the apps, and then have a long conversation with someone about their dating life that doesn't go anywhere.
Enough. 10 minutes have gone by, and not one joke has been told, and it's very.
But 7 Instagram reels have been created, and that's what's important.
Todd Barry's good at it. Come on.
No, I'm good at it. That's why I'm mad. Good comedians can do crowd work. I love Todd Barry.
Todd Barry.
I'm not talking about Todd Barry. No.
I know.
I'm not talking about.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm arguing with cartoonist Bob Fingerman.
That's fair.
No, wait. I'm agreeing with Bob Fingerman.
Oh, wait. That's fair.
Yeah.
So wait, guys, the comedians. Matt, stop running away. The comedians
Matt's making his dinner.
So my question to you was there any accuracy in what I did? Because I was basing some of what I understood about comedians on a lot of interviews I've heard, specifically on Mark Maron's podcast, when he would do a lot of interviews with comedians. And one of the things that everyone seemed to talk about was chasing that first joke with that feeling that they got. Was that true? Is that true to you, for you guys?
Well, I've never said anything funny, so it's hard. It's hard for me to relate to that.
You could theoretically chase one in the future.
I would say the thing, it's a very dark, sad kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like the character he's sad. He's been traumatized.
Yes.
And lots of. I mean, I wouldn't say I've been traumatized. I've been horribly traumatized in my life or anything like that. But a lot of stand-up comedy.
Never too late.
Right. I'm working on it. I'm sure something will come up. it's a dark scene, you know. It's there's a lot of I would say you captured that.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
good.
to get an idea about something that takes place in comedy clubs, to put it into this, that's very relatable.
Well,
So
I'm glad that worked out, because I wasn't sure, because I
I
knew
enjoyed that.
I was making it up and then adding other genres like, body dysmorphia, horror, a little bit of science fiction, the mad scientist. I don't even explain the evil corporation whatsoever, because we already know what that is.
I don't think they have a name, right? They just call them the evil corporation, the
Oh,
experiment.
actually,
Or do
no,
they?
to relate it to Zion Universe, to Charlie
Meridian, I
McKell.
think.
Oh,
Yeah,
you did? Okay.
and then I created Meridian Prime. That was a whole other curveball that I threw into it. And then, actually, weirdly enough, spoiler, the comic is about moms in some way, because he talks about his mom, and Meridian Prime is a mom, and so it kind of veers into this other kind of story. So
Yeah, I thought it was
one thing
interesting.
that I liked about it most, though. I thought that was like an unexpected kind of curveball, and when you jump into that lane, I'm like, okay, well done. I don't know. It was something that, like I said, I was like, okay, this is a gear shift, but you shifted well into it, and you really wrote it out. So I was appreciative of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like there's this whole second act of the story, and like because you start out, because like what you're saying, it's like it's all these like genre intonations combined in a way that's using stand up. Not so much, it's not like a story about, I mean, it's literally a story about a stand up comedian in a way, but like about thematically, it's more using stand up, like the language of stand up, as a sort of noirish like motif, right? Like you're using it as a way of describing what he's actually going through, which is like an action story, right? It's not like a story about an artist. It's a story. Ultimately, it's like an action comic book that's happening, but you have this ongoing metaphor to stand-up comedy. And what I thought was interesting is that does continue throughout the whole book, but then there's this moment where it switches to the narration that's like a letter to his mom, and it does continue that metaphor in a way, but it's like more direct, because now he's talking about like this is what I did. So I thought it was interesting that you keep that motif throughout, but there's actually really like sort of two movements to this story, and like one is just like his crash out and like kind of coming back up, and then we all of a sudden he gets saved, and we encounter this whole by a mother, and then we encounter this whole second act with him appreciating his mother. I thought that was interesting. Wasn't like George said, I wasn't expecting that at all, but it's like reading the first half, I wouldn't have expected that to have like be a whole second arc within the issue.
Well, thank you. And one of the criticism I had about doing these 24-page comics, because my recent deep cut comics that have been crowdfunded, I've been doing them basically as 24 pagers, and it's hard to pack in a lot into 24 pages. So I've been doing. Are you pointing for us or someone else?
Oh no, I think you could see it on camera. Sorry,
oh,
pointing at, this was on my shelf behind me, I realized.
Oh, sweet. For listeners, that's the Red Hook X Dean Haspiel. That was my third previous Kickstarter. Thank you very much, Nat. And yeah, that also, I hopefully when you read that comic, it feels a little unexpected as well. So, Vito, we need you, because we're about to do something here.
But Dean, you're saying the page count, I didn't mean to distract. The page count of these gives you a little more. How many pages is Chest Face?
24.
24
pages. So I'm trying to, comics as an art form, and maybe it's true with comedy too, is a shortcut, kind of a shorthand of conveying story, and trying to find the essentials, but also padding it with a little bit of unexpected, so that you're before you get to the thing you're trying to say, and we live in a world, I think, where a lot of people just want to know what the endings of things are rather than experiencing them. But I would like to have in the future a little bit more wiggle room or leeway to live with these characters a little bit longer before we're getting into the drama of the story, if that makes sense. You know. So hopefully, all right. So unless
I have one question. I have one question for you, Dean.
Okay.
Would you ever consider doing an open mic with your chest face jokes?
So, because I don't know, I'll answer it in two ways. Because I don't know what his humor is
and
yet.
then not truthfully.
Because I don't know his humor yet, that would be a problem. Okay, number one. But number two, for a guy like me who appears to be an extrovert, I'm not an introvert, I don't think, but I am shy. And and we'll talk about this with Nat a little bit more, because when I first met Nat, it was through a variety show, but we'll get to that. I am nervous, and I do find it incredible, not only for someone to get up in front of a mic and just talk to an audience, which I've started to figure out how to be okay with that, just as long as I'm talking about something that maybe at least interests me, but to actually perform jokes where at the end of the joke, except for Matt Champagne, most people are supposed to laugh. Did I just tell a joke? I find that to be an incredible burden, that anticipation. And again, we can talk more about that with the comedians, or you can answer that right now. Is it okay for you to tell a joke and get no response intentionally, or not even intentionally? Like intentionally, that makes sense. But like when I guess you're always test running jokes and seeing what works and doesn't work. Is that the idea?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the thing with stand-up is like, and I've been working on my hour recently. I'm in a similar place to Chest Face. I will actually be doing my first hour later this month, so I just have to kill one monster by April 26th. But yeah, I think that that like you're kind of constantly revising, and one of the big differences I see between comedians who are good at what they're doing and comedians who are like not all the way there yet. It's what I would refer to as control. That's not like a phrase that people use in comedy, but it's not confidence necessarily. A lot of people have confidence, but they don't have control. So like they can't really control how their set's going to go. And I think a comedian who has control can really react to an audience and keep the tone the way that they want. But the main thing that the specific way that you see that manifest is like if some comedians want a line to do really well, and when it falls flat, you'll see them either a tired save line, or they'll attack the audience, or if the joke's about pizza, they'll be like, oh, this is more of a, I guess you guys don't like pizza. It's like, no, it's never about the subject matter. But but there's all these like slightly ironic save lines that people do, or they will really get shaken, and you'll just see that they're like, oh, I guess you guys don't like me. And that's the moment when the audience realizes they don't like them. It's like the second you start saying this is going bad, the audience believes you. But right. If you just keep talking like that, like I've truly like flat, like, oh, I had a line for this joke. My jokes are usually a lot of things combined with short jokes along the way. So it's not like, if the big ending punchline doesn't work, sometimes you got to go, all right, you know what? You caught me. That did not work, but I got to move on. But I've had lines along the way in joke fall flat, and like, I hope and I believe you cannot see on my face that it was supposed to get a laugh, and I just say the next sentence. And the comedian Reggie Watts once told me a really good piece of advice, because reflexively got defensive about an audience not laughing at something. And he was like, when an audience isn't interested in you, they're like on their phones and talking to each other. Silence is an audience that's listening to you. Like they're waiting for the next thing that you're going to say. So if you get silence, that's attention. Like that's good. What you're doing is working. You just didn't get a laugh in the exact moment you wanted to. So silence doesn't mean they don't like you. But then, the part I add to it is the second you go, you don't like me. Well, that audience was listening to you, as per Reggie's advice. And then they took what you said seriously. And so like, I think that little moment of how it works because things, no one has their jokes work 100% of the time. So it's like how you react to that, like, and the longer you go, you get better at guessing what will work, but things will still fall flat.
Well, I can tell you one thing from the other side of the equation, and it's a lose-lose for both parties. If a comedian sees someone who's not digging their humor, and then that's who they focus on, oh boy, is that a bad time for everybody. I was that audience member once. When you're in the front row, it's a really risky proposition, especially at a comedy thing. And one of the things is you think you're in darkness. You don't realize just how much of the audience the person on stage can see. So if you're sitting there with a look on your face of like, really, really, and that comedian sees you with that face, oh boy, is that a rough time. Like I say, I was that person. I didn't want to be. It was somebody who I'm not going to say who, but it was somebody I had seen their work and seen them in movies and so forth. Thought, this is, sorry?
I said Matt Champagne.
It was a very no. I said it was a very funny person.
I'm right here, Bob. You can
Yeah.
tell me.
Congrats on the movies, though, Matt.
All I'll say is this person was more a physical comedian. So I was expecting something other than kind of a standard set. And unfortunately, like this person was brilliant at physical comedy, but their stand-up was the absolute bottom shelf hackiest stuff where it literally was like, oh, food on planes, huh? I mean, really, but it was not being self-referential, like, oh, these are the worst. That was the material. And I kept waiting. It was one of those things where it was like, this has got to be building towards something. And then at a certain point I realized, oh no, this is not building toward anything. This is going to be an hour. And so I know I probably because I have no poker face. Dean has known me long enough to know what I'm thinking is on my face. And so I'm sure I was looking up like, what, really? What? And so this guy saw me and it was horrendous because not only did he say, this guy isn't enjoying it, and I literally mouthed at him, please don't, because it was like, this will not go well for anyone. But the thing is, I then became this fixation for him because he began to sweat. It was the literal, you could begin to see the sweat. And I thought, this guy's been in movies. This guy's like legit. He should not be giving me this much importance. I should be of no consequence. But it was rough. It was a rough hour because he kept saying like, well, this guy isn't laughing. And it was just like, oh no, I want to die. But it was amazing. It was horrendous.
You wanted to laugh. No.
I wanted to. I didn't want to be cruel, but I'm not going to be sitting there going, ha ha ha. I couldn't do it. It was a very bad time for him and for me. It was no good. And then, I'm sorry, I don't want to monopolize this, but about maybe 2 months ago, I saw an interview with Patton Oswalt. And the guy interviewing him said, like, so has anyone in the audience ever thrown you off? And he was saying, well, as a matter of fact, I just did this set in Madison, and there was a guy in the front row, and he began to describe this person, and I thought, oh, I know who he's talking about. That's a friend of mine. And so sure enough, I text him and I say, hey, did you go see Patton last week? Immediate response, why? I said, well,
yes.
Well, I think he's talking about you. And I thought my friend would find that funny. But he was so bummed out. He's like, God damn it. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be. So we sort of had a terrible union of being that guy that you don't want to be that guy, but sometimes you're that guy. And I'm done. And scene.
I was squirming. I wasn't there, and just you were saying that, I saw myself fidgeting in the Zoom video, just like, oh, I do not want to. Oh, it drives me insane. There's another version of that on showcase shows, which is when everyone's doing like 10 to 15 minutes, which is like someone in the front row has a weird hat or an outfit, and the comedians are backstage not watching the person on stage. He says with a tone of condemnation, as if that's a professional standard that maybe should be kept. And they all come out and talk to the same person and do the same joke. I've heard audience members on the 5th time be like, they talked to him already in the crowd. And to me, it's like, it's fine, but it is this insecure thing of like, something is not normal. I have to comment on it. And sometimes I'm like, you could just be a professional and do your job. It's like, especially when they keep going back to the same guy, it's like, it's diminishing returns,
Or some kind of attack.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Sometimes it's just a person who paid money. I mean, I'll give you a sort of counter story to Bob's, which is I was on stage at, I'll name it, it's a good show, every Sunday at Beauty Bar in Manhattan. I have nothing to do with it, but there's a show called Secret Sauce. I think it's free in the back room of Beauty Bar. It's been going for years in some capacity. And I was at that show. We got, 20-something people in the audience. Not a huge room, but it's Sunday night in the back of a bar. And it's like 5 or 6 comics, and we're all doing our set. And there's these 2 women, probably in their like 50s or 60s, in the front row, and they're sitting there and they're like wearing their jackets and everything, and they're like not settled in, and they're just kind of sitting like this for the whole show, and they're kind of like they smile, but they kind of look and whatever. And I'm on stage, and it's just like resisting the urge to be like, are you even like, not are you listening? They're watching, but just resisting the urge to be like, I'm sorry you don't like me, essentially. And I didn't say anything, and I just stuck with my set, even though basically no one in the front row was giving me anything. And I'm pitching my jokes over their head. And that's just what you do. You just keep going and you pretend everyone's laughing, right? And I do the whole set. And then I remember I literally even went out to the bar and they have a camera in there. They watch, make sure no one gets too drunk or anything. Someone was like falling out of her chair and they're like, is she okay? And I was like, she's drunk, but she's not talking back. Bartender looks at the other and goes, what's with these women? Are they giving you any trouble? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe they just don't want to be here. But they could see even on the like security camera video that these people were just like, anyway, show ends. Everyone goes. I'm at the bar with the hosts. We're chatting. People take a while to file out. These two women are the last two to leave. And as they leave, they're like, we were just in town. We grew up together. She lives in Cleveland. I'm in Atlanta. And we just decided to take a trip for her 55th birthday. And we saw a show earlier tonight. And we're leaving early tomorrow morning. And we just thought, like, maybe there's one more thing we can do. And we happened to see, like, online or a sign that there was a comedy show in this bar. And this was, like, the best part of the whole weekend. And we're so glad that we just happened to find this right before we go back home. And, like, thank you for making our birthday weekend so special. And I was like, I was this close to ruining the birthday weekend.
That's so
But that's
sweet.
why you do it, right? Where it's like, not everyone, some people, I mean, I hate to say it, but people spend 2 years inside watching comedy on TV. You're not required to sit up and laugh and clap. And like, people are just used to it. I don't like that. But also some people just look grumpy. Some people just express enjoyment differently. They're not texting. They're not talking to each other. They're watching you, And that was like such a lesson because I was so close to, even just as a little joke between them to try to get them to like loosen up a little bit. But they were loving it. They were like, we don't go to comedy shows, which I took to mean like, oh yeah, you're not trained to like, oh, you got to clap and laugh.
I will say, yeah, the other thing is, and with that, again, I'm not revealing who that friend of mine was, but I knew he was a comedy writer. People who write comedy watch comedy differently because they're kind of analyzing the joke and like in their head, they're like, oh, that's a solid joke. But they're not laughing out loud because there is a different kind of appreciation of it because it's more of like, and when you see a comedian laugh, it's like, oh, either that's really solid or they're a generous laugher. There actually are some comedians who are generous laughers. I always think of Paul F. Tompkins. He is a generous laugher. But a lot of comedians, even if they're enjoying the set, they don't necessarily look like it. And but if you don't know that, or if the person's a comedy writer, so they're not a performer, so you're not recognizing, oh, that's one of us. You're just seeing this sour-looking dude nodding. It's possibly going to throw off your whole thing. The angriest I ever saw a comedian get at people not laughing, because it was literally me and one friend were laughing our asses off, but we were at least 20 years older than everyone else there. Andy Kindler was absolutely doing one of the best sets, and it was destroying me. I couldn't stop laughing, but everyone else there was like 20 years old. And at a certain point, he said, "I don't care if you're not laughing. Fuck you. This is solid material." And he just kept going, and it was like, "You get him, Andy." So
I love it. I remember when I first met you, Bob, for the first few years, because you have this perpetual resting Bob Fingerman face.
Well, I've gotten better. Come on, I've gotten better. I used to just look like I wanted to die.
No, you wanted to die. So, but to make you smile was almost like my job. I felt like, because I wanted to see you smile. It would make me happy, So you have come to smile a lot more since then. So
that is true.
All right, before he goes to sleep, I need to bring somebody on.
Yeah, do it.
All right. So if you want to pin the red velvet, you got it. Okay, this is for our YouTube people.
Wait, before you do this, because I told you I have this to use a showbiz term, I have a hard out, so yeah. I have to actually bail. So
no, you got to see this part. You got 5 minutes. Give me 5.
Oh, okay.
Give me 5.
Okay, yeah, I've got 5 minutes.
If you got 5, okay. I'd like to introduce Chest Face.
Is this thing on? Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? All right.
Yeah. Woo!
You might need
Yeah.
chest face.
Bob, are you having a good time? Why don't you tell your face? All right. Good evening, Whitney and gentlemen. Here I am, the Mount Rushmore of riddles, the Stonehenge of silly. I'm really fracking funny. I'm Chest Face.
Yeah. Woo!
I had a rough childhood. I used to call my dad New York Times because paper beats rock. I did think about running for city council. I figure I'd win in a landslide. Yeah, I made a rock. I walk around New York City naked. I'm just bolder than most. Give it up, people. I need this job. I don't want to end up working as part of the break wall at Pebble Beach. Relationships are tough. I just broke up with my girlfriend. She took me for granted.
Oh,
I like athletic women. It's hard to meet women who are into rock climbing. Any single ladies here tonight? Want to be between a rock and a hard place? Hey, yeah. I once met a woman made of rock. What's the best part about dating a woman made of rock? All the cleavage, of course. Seriously, our relationship started out with seismic heat and then eroded into a platonic relationship. It was nobody's fault.
Oh.
So I stay lonely. I sit here late at night, cheap bottle of whiskey, listening to Rachmaninoff, holding a postcard of Venus de Milo, and fire up my rock polishing kit. Yeah, I'll tumble for you. Yeah, thank you. I'm available for children's parties. To book me, I'm just a stone's throw away. My name's Chest Face. Night.
Woo! That's some solid rock humor.
Yep.
Wow.
Matt called it. Thank you, everybody. That was Chris Mackar. Chris, you want to show your mug? Can you get in there?
The prestige.
Oh, the prestige.
Wow. Chris, were you just standing there in preparation for that for the last 30
Yeah, I was
minutes?
standing there.
Shadow boxing.
Wow. So yeah, I actually sent those jokes to Dean a while back just for fun as a writing exercise, and we enjoyed it and thought we'd share them with you tonight. So
Thank you, Chris.
It's an appropriate shirt you've got there on the top hat.
Stone Cold. I love it.
All right.
Yeah, but you're taking the rock metaphors even further with that show.
Absolutely. Well, yeah,
So,
thank
Chris,
you.
tell our listeners of the podcast. I think most people here know you, except for maybe Nat and Bob. Do you know Chris at all?
No, I've never met.
No.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
So you're in Cleveland.
I'm from Cleveland. Got to meet Dean through Whitney, who I was involved with Pop Candy for a while as a commenter, and met Dean through that, and just I don't know, just email corresponding and stuff like that. So,
And then you tell jokes like often, right? Like,
yeah,
like
I'm like I open my comic around Cleveland. I've opened for Kurt Broniger and Zach Zimmerman. I think is around Brooklyn a lot.
Oh yeah, no, I know him. He's great.
Yeah, so I've worked with him and he was awesome. We did a show in Willoughby, Ohio, and then yeah, I've opened for a couple of guys that have done Tonight shows around here. So
Nice.
I work with
How's the Cleveland scene?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, you can work every night and sometimes multiple times a night. Most shows I've done is 3 in a night. So there's a group out here called the Secret Society that do pop-up shows all over town.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah. I was literally talking to someone about that last night, actually, because my friend is doing it. Yeah.
Brian Sternick and David Horning. Yeah, if you ever come to Cleveland, there's definitely the guys to work with. Another guy is Bill Squire, Ramon Rivas. He's done HBO and Comedy Central, so I work with him a lot.
Yeah, Chris had an interesting, for those who are like not in the comedy scene, I think an interesting thing, like distinction that you just made is like a lot of cities have some comedy scene, but I feel like there's a big difference between there's a show every night, or there's more than you can get to, or there's just some scenes where it's like, well, there's an open mic this Wednesday, but next Wednesday it's a music only, or like there's 3 shows, but then there's nothing on Monday or Tuesday. But I feel like if you have a real scene, it's like, oh, there's shows every night, and you can't necessarily, there's more to do than you could possibly get to. And that's what I feel like when you get a real scene.
I was kind of at the ground floor of like the scene
it started off in a coffee shop called Bella Dubby, and all of a sudden it went from one room to 2 rooms, 3 rooms, and this guy Ramon really started the scene. Like I said, I mean, Ramon was doing up to, I think, 12 rooms a week or something like that.
Wow.
He could get anywhere. But there's a good scene here, good talented people. Of course, and the open mic scene too is like you see some great people, and then you see the mentally ill, and you see the funny and not funny. It's a whole mixed bag of people. So
That was one thing I kind of miss about like stand-up open mics in New York are pretty stand-up oriented now, but like when the sort of East Village open mic scene was way more stand-up just wasn't as big, I think, for a while, and it was also just like kind of coming out of that like 80s and 90s variety scene and stuff. So the East Village stand-up mics, mics in general, you'd get people, singer-songwriter, someone doing stand-up, a storyteller, and you would truly get just like people who wandered in off the street and was like, oh, captive audience, like no, they started like the thoughts have started in progress and they will not reach a conclusion by the time this person is off the stage. But you would just hear like 4 minutes of a complete stranger's mind.
Like, all confidence, no material.
Oh yeah. But I'm not even talking about people who think they're comedians. I think we used to just get local weirdos who would walk in and be like, I'm a comedian.
Everybody, Bob's out of here. Thanks so much, Bob. Thanks for hopping on.
Thank you all.
So nice meeting you.
It was lovely seeing and meeting you. And yeah.
And Bob, you should hang out with Matt Champagne. Okay.
We are. We're doing it right now.
We're doing it right now. What, in person?
Yeah, we're
That's
hanging.
gross.
A guy that you guys might know.
Gotta go. I gotta get into traffic. That's what we do.
Be careful.
Here.
Drive safe.
Bye.
He was with the Comedy Cellar. He's been on Louis' show. Is Jim Tews. He's from Cleveland. I know him.
Oh yeah, no, he had a show here in New York for a while. I've done it a few times.
He was really the ground floor of the Bella Dubby.
Oh, okay, cool. I like that guy.
Chris, you seem to differentiate between successful comics and the mentally ill, as if there's no overlap.
Yeah, I agree.
Why do you do that?
I don't know. That's maybe I made a mistake. I don't know, but yeah, I should get more in touch with that because I think because you watch somebody, maybe they should be in a hospital instead of on the stage, and that's where I run into. But there are, I would say, mentally ill geniuses out there. So.
Stop it! I wouldn't call me that. But I mean, you know, if you want to use the word, I didn't say it.
But look at Matt's background, Matt Champagne. Like the institution you're in makes it look like it's a real kitchen, like a domestic kitchen.
That's all painted on the wall.
Right.
That's Trump Lloyd.
I guess
like a lot of people would try to put like a waterfall or some kind of like a rock formation, maybe
an aquarium.
But I just take a picture of my kitchen and green screen it behind me.
Matt, I guess where I'm going to say the difference. What I'm talking about is somebody who doesn't write an act or something, or isn't trying to attempt humor. They're going on stage, do word salad or something like that, and they like to use help rather than the stage. I run into that on open mics sometimes.
Right. Have Chris and Nat, have you ever done one of these joke? What are they called? One night of 1,000 jokes, where it's a March Madness thing, where you get up there with one other comic.
There's a lot of those. Like one-liner madness. I'm aware that it exists, but I've not done it. No.
Oh man, the last show I did was one of those, and that was great fun. Like, I came prepared with 3 jokes, right, and I kept going back up. Like, I went up like 7 or 8 times. I had to dig into the archives.
It's like
and I eventually got eliminated by a friend of mine, so that was nice. But it's a March Madness thing where
they vote on their favorite comedian.
It's like a big tournament. Yeah. And there's like 50 comedians.
And they have judges, but they bring 2 comics up. They say the name of one comic and they tell their joke, and then the other comic tells their joke, and then the judges go, audience, who do you want to see again? This guy or this guy?
This is a perfect segue, Matt. This is a perfect segue because just to manage everybody's expectations and time, we're going to talk to Nat a little bit about Nat, and then we're going to get into a game hosted by Matt Champagne.
Oh, cool.
So in the popularity contest, we'll jump ahead a little bit, Nat. Tell us about Jimmy Fallon. That was a contest.
Yeah, in a way, I mean, it literally was, I suppose. For those who don't know, I did stand up at the Tonight Show about 2 years ago on a segment that only aired once. They had a long-running segment called, they said it wasn't my fault, but a long-running segment called Battle of the Instant Songwriters, where they would give two musicians an hour to write a song based on a theme, and they would write a funny song, and then the audience would vote on who won. And they were like, let's do that with stand-up. So I was approached because a writer in the show recommended me. And essentially, they had me write, they said, would you send me an email? Would you be interested in doing stand-up of the Tonight Show? And I was like, I'll think about it. But they explained the circumstances, and you're going to have to like write this last minute. And I write every day. I was like, oh, sure, I'll write material right now, whatever you want. I'll do that. And I used to run a new material night at the People's Improv Theater for a couple of years, and I would always open it with about 15 minutes of new jokes. And I think the process of just having to write, and a lot of that stuff didn't work, to be clear. Like, we were talking about this earlier of like just moving on. Like, I was just moving through like new material and like contemporary, headline ripped from the headlines kind of stuff too, or whatever was on my mind that week. But I felt like very prepared for this thing, so I said sure. And what they had me do was a sort of self-tape audition where they said, okay, write us 2 minutes of jokes about the Super Bowl. And so I wrote that, and then I recorded it, and just alone in my they said no audience, so I did it alone in my office in my old apartment. This is my home. And I just sent them me doing 2 minutes of stand-up on the Super Bowl to camera. And they liked it. And a couple days later said, you were a favorite in the room, but we can't promise anything. And then later that day, they sent me a contract and said, you need to be here first thing Friday morning. And we will basically won't tell you what your set is about until before we record the show. So I had to write at the last minute, write a set about St. Patrick's Day.
On national television. National television.
Wow.
On a show that people actually watch.
Yeah, so the first time I performed it ever in front of anyone was at the rehearsal. And I was like desperately looking to see if I was trying to make the cameraman laugh so hard. The director laughed, and I was like, oh, thank God. Because no one's in the room. Fallon wasn't there. The Roots aren't there. It's like only crew. So we're talking maybe 7 to 15, not even 15 people in the room. And I'm just, right. and they're doing their jobs too, right? And so I'm trying to get the cameraman to be like, and that was my only feedback. And then, the next time I did that set, first time with a real audience, was on the Tonight Show on a Friday night for about 3 million people, I think, watched it. Just insane, yeah. But I was so fugue state the whole time that it was like, I just got to write these jokes. I just got to do it. Yeah, I'll go there. I'll be there. I'll be fine. I was just so eyes on the prize that I think the scale of it I knew it was crazy, and I didn't Google what their viewership was until later. I think that would have freaked me out, honestly. Yeah. Because I'll never experience an orders of magnitude increase from the previous largest audience I'd ever done before, which was like a 3,000 seat theater or something. So 3,000 to 3 million is 3 orders of magnitude. Like, unless I do comedy for 3 billion people, still possible. Under a one world government. So
the next pandemic, or one world government.
We're on our way.
Yeah. Actually, let me show you something. This will be mounted on the wall, but I just moved. This is my new office, so things aren't set up yet. But this is my might be backwards on the Zoom, but this is the cue card of Jimmy Fallon introducing me.
That is awesome. And I always think about those letterers that have to do that. Thank you so much, Annette.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
Be reminded to say that. I love.
Yeah,
that.
They put it on the cue card for me.
Well, I have name, Nat.
I know, and I have all the cards. By the way, I wore my Daredevil T-shirt because I felt like it was in a gritty street level crime fighting vein. But it's so funny because I'm so used to like shoestring comedy shows where it's like, I'm sorry, can I get?
Well, that's how we met. Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
a little bit. Like, you did a variety show at what was the name of the theater in the Lower East Side?
The UCB Theater, East Village. Yeah, the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater.
Right, and I don't remember it. Did you know Jonathan Ames? Did he recommend me, or did somebody recommend me to you? Because you invited me to be.
I knew him. Yeah, I knew Jonathan from. I had a variety show called The Moon for years. You might have even done that one. I don't remember if we met through that originally, but we had done that was way it was a very like vaudeville Muppet show kind of like it's a variety show and we have guests on the show, but also something goes wrong every week. Like, oh, the CEO of the show is here. They're making us do test, like someone comes on as a character and we, the hosts, are just trying to make the variety show happen. And there's a story that ties everything together. But then there would be real guests and we put an insane amount of work into this show, but there would be real guests doing their thing. But then our part would be a story that tied everything together.
Right.
But it wasn't just comedy. Our through line was, but we would have, non-comedy musicians and dancers. And one of the regularly occurring formats was live comics readings. And so I met a lot of cartoonists through that. And I'm not sure if you were ever on that show, but also Jonathan came on and read a new piece he was working on or something. And I think we would also do these crossover shows with like comics festivals and book festivals. So we had him on either a literary themed or Brooklyn themed, somewhere where he and I had an overlap. And and I think we must have met through him. You might have even come to that.
And then, I remember, I think the first show I did with you, I think Janine Garofalo was on that or something. And you would have this really cool a mixed bag that actually inspired me to, when I would do some stuff in Brooklyn, like when I had Matt Champagne on, was to just kind of mix it up between comedy, another kind of, multimedia type thing, whether it was comics or music or whatever, and it was a lot of fun. And I guess I was semi-inspired by you, but also New York City in general. That's one of the things that New York City does so well, or a lot of urban cities, California, Chicago, whatever, is to have these places where you can go and get 6 different types of mediums, as it were. And it was a lot. I remember enjoying that a lot. And then a bunch of years went by and you're still doing comedy and showing up in Jimmy Fallon, but also you're also into comic books as well. And I know you can't really say anything, but you are working on comics right now, aren't you?
Well, maybe I, yeah. I am in a slightly development hell phase here where I can't really talk about anything that's coming out yet. But I've been writing comics professionally for about 2 years now, and nothing is published yet. But I'll have an announcement hopefully very soon. I signed with a literary agent in December. Wonder what that's about. We'll see.
Gee, I wonder.
Yeah,
let's see what happens. But you seem to be like I have 2 questions. One we'll talk about like a certain kind of comedy for Chest Face, but where did the origins of comedy start for you? Like, why? What made you think you could go up on stage and tell a joke?
That's a good question. I remember I grew up with a lot of, my parents were performers. They were funny. I mean, my parents did like clown and theater and stuff like that. And so everything, was very I grew up watching Looney Tunes, probably the earliest comedy. And probably right around the same time in my life, I got into, on one side, classic Looney Tunes, and then discovered also Tintin and the Eastman and Laird Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. Those were all probably the same age, like 5 or 6. I discovered these things, and the comic side was my parents were aware of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday morning cartoon, and were not aware that the Eastman and Laird comics were like a somewhat violent Frank Miller parody, and just bought me all those old comics. And then Tintin was also very popular. And we lived in France for a while where Tintin was very popular. So I simultaneously got into both of those. But I don't think I knew what stand-up comedy was until high school, because there's, unless you stay up late watching TV, which my parents didn't let me do, kids don't really have any access to that. So most of the comedy
you would see comedy on like Johnny Carson. You'd see once in a while somebody to come tell jokes for like 5 minutes or whatever. And
sometimes my dad would let me watch the Letterman monologue or the first desk bit, but to be up late enough for the comedian, it took till high school for me to really see it. I remember watching the movie Fame, and there's a scene in that movie where they go see their friend do stand-up, and I had this kind of moment of like, you can just do that? Because everything I knew was like, oh, we're gonna do a clown take on Othello, and then we wrote these jokes in it, or like I did a funny song, and like this guy we know who's a folk musician has these funny songs with jokes in them. And I remember it blowing my mind. And again, it's a scene in a movie, not a real stand-up comedian. And I'd heard like Cosby recordings, but I didn't know what they were because they were just recorded. I had no visual for it. And I remember maybe being like 13 and realizing, oh, you could just strip it all down. You could just tell jokes. Like that's amazing. I always thought you need to have like, I wrote parody newspapers with my friends before The Onion existed. Like we did a fake school newspaper. We would put on skits and plays. Like I was always trying to find a container for it. And I think why I ultimately got back to stand up was like, it's just the most distilled form.
And speaking of, real quick, Vito, who is my podcast buddy here, did you ever want to do stand up? I felt like, because I knew you were an actor.
I did. We used to host comedy nights at the comic store that I worked at Jim Hanley's Universe.
Jim Hanley's Universe.
So I was kind of the de facto MC, and so I would craft together like a couple of like interstitials before I introduced somebody. And I think I did the open mic the first night, like after we had the kind of curated, more professional comedians on. But yeah, I did some stand up. Every now and again, it's very funny. I'll think in that kind of like mindset, and I'll write a joke down. Like I'll like they float around my desk here and there, but I don't actually like Pittsburgh. There is a comedy scene here, but it's not like you could go to the Comedy Cellar and stuff in New York, and like on that same block, there's like 5 or 6 different clubs to go to.
Vito's in Pittsburgh, so no, near Pittsburgh.
I'm in Pittsburgh, near Pittsburgh, guys.
That's right. You're near Pittsburgh. What's it called? Katanning or something?
That's right.
Yeah, Katanning.
Containment?
It's a sound when you hit metal on metal. Oh. That's the name of his where he lives.
I thought the name of the city was Containment, Philadelphia.
Oh, that's where you live, my friend.
Pennsylvania. Containment.
Penitentiary, yeah.
So I'm getting texts from Whitney telling me we got to start the game already with Matt, because Matt's kind of like going back and forth. But before we do that,
can I tell you something real quick? Can I tell you a quick story? Can we do one more quick story? Okay. So how I got into comedy was I always just been like a super fan of comedy, listen to all the tapes and stuff like that. But I didn't really think that's what I thought. These guys come from another planet into this. So it's like I never thought you actually could do this. So when I was in college, I saw a poster. It said like there was a comedy contest at this bar. So I thought, I'll try that. So I wrote like 5 minutes. So I show up at this bar, I think it was called Checkers or something like that. And I get on stage and I tell my first joke and it totally bombs. And somebody in the audience goes, "Tell us some funny jokes, you asshole." And like I said, "Why don't you just shut up?" And then they're like, "Woo." And then I blanked and I forgot the rest of my act. And then people just started yelling at me. And so I was like, this guy's like, "Yeah, you suck." And I said, "Hey, it's 10 o'clock. Shouldn't you be home beating your wife?" And well, what turned out, I didn't know it was a biker bar. So it was all bikers just screaming at me. And then, so I just told them I just like swore at them for about 5 minutes and get off the stage. So I'm like trying to leave out the exit door. And the owner grabs me and he goes, "Yeah, the guys want to talk to you." And I was like, "Hey, I don't want any problems, man. I just want to get out of here. I ran my mouth. I'm sorry, fight or flight, And he goes, "No, I insist." So I had to go in the back and meet these bikers at the bar. And this guy gets in my face and he goes, "Nobody talks to us like that." And then they bought me a beer and they bought me a cheeseburger. And then, and I'm like, wow, this is show business. And then they took me outside and beat me with chains. So that was
But you got a burger.
I got a burger and a beer.
Hey.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna get beaten, you want to do that on a full stomach.
Yeah, that was I had a terrible first experience, but it was like so like exciting that it just kind of hooked me in.
That's wild.
That's
what an
awesome.
Initiation.
I love that story. So before we go into the game mode, which will be a lot of fun, right, Matt?
Fun.
Lot of fun. Nat, because you're our featured guest, I wanted to get your sense from reading the comic what type or style of humor Chestface does, but I did want to let you know that the kind of comedians I've been listening to lately, and some of y'all be like, Dean, you're a jerk, whatever, is I think my favorite comedian living today right now is Doug Stanhope.
Okay.
I love what he does. I like Bill Burr.
Great.
I'm a diehard fan of Patton Oswalt. I've become a recent fan of Sam Talent. Do you know Sam Talent at all?
Oh, only a little bit. And I like Doug Stanhope. I mean, I feel like I haven't heard any of his stand up in like 10 years though. Like I probably
I saw
I'm out of the loop with him.
I saw him like 3 or 4 years ago in New York, where at one point he had to throw someone out of the New York. It was crazy. I'm still a fan of Louis C.K. I like a lot of his earlier stuff, obviously. You know, I feel right now maybe he's not as funny for reasons.
Really? Why?
I wonder why. Anthony Jeselnik, I'm a big fan of.
Do you think he has some kind of internal contradiction with the public that might be affecting his ability to reach honesty on stage? Could that have anything to do with it?
Perhaps.
Do you think that could be it?
And I love Bill Burr and
Bill Burr's hit his stride in a crazy way, right? Like I always thought he was solid, but his past few years, it's like
he's figured it out.
Really
he's figured out what he's doing. Yeah.
I mean, everyone's always anyone who's remotely relevant, people compare to Carlin, but I feel like he's really channeling Carlin recently.
Absolutely.
But he's still such a strong joke writer that people don't know what to do with him because they're like, he went woke, and it's like, yeah, but he's killing. Like he's so good. Like
he's woke, and then he's not woke, and then he's woke again, and it's like this beautiful line that he's straddling between the two, and yet able to also be, I think, super honest because he did mushrooms recently, and from doing mushrooms, what the hell?
He's a leftist with a working class accent. Something conservatives melt down every time they experience. Like, it just doesn't make sense. How did we not get this one?
Absolutely. And you know what's weird? Go ahead, Chris.
My brother's favorite comedian is also Doug Stanhope. So he met him after a show, I think in New Orleans, but he got me this autograph.
Chris, fuck off, you talk.
I have that. It's in my back room.
That's amazing. So I have a quick Doug Stanhope story. I was driving back from Yaddo.
Before you tell that, Dean.
Yeah.
There's one other connection to comedy that you have that I keep forgetting, and I just remembered. You did the artwork for someone's album.
Yes. And did you look it up?
I didn't. I'm just trying to remember.
Not only did the artwork, I did a comic and a cover for this comedian.
It was
who you know, of course.
Like a pervert. He's like a weird pervert. And I don't know him personally. He somehow reached out to me.
Is it R. Kelly?
No. Oh, my beloved R. Kelly. Beloved R. Kelly. That guy's funny. Talk about funny. Those songs are funny. Okay. What I wanted to add, sorry, I don't remember Vito, but if you can look it up, I forget who he is, but I did do artwork for a comedian. Actually, a couple comedians. But anyway, there's also, and Nat, going back to the style of Chestface humor, there's also recently, I was never really a Dave Chappelle guy, but the more recent ones where he has these long kind of conversational. So maybe I'm tipping my hat a little bit when I say conversational. So what do you feel like Chestface style of humor might be? Besides
that's so interesting. I would have gone farther back. I would have assumed. So it's funny that you were like, I want to ask you what it reminds you of, because that was the question. One of the questions I wrote down while reading it to ask you. So I feel like you've kind of answered, but those are like who you've been listening to, not necessarily. Okay, so here's the first thing is the noir tone. Like I would have assumed someone way more like Catskills or earlier. Like I don't know if he does one-liners or longer. Like my first. Okay, reading
I don't think
through
he does one-liners.
Okay, so here's what I had my thought, like reading through it, right? Like he's got some successful material early on. He's getting laughs. Now he's got this lull in his career. Starts to talk about the pain and how his life is going poorly, and that starts to kill. Having the meltdown on stage, becoming that. So the first person, I feel like the obvious comparison would be Rodney, like someone who started off as like a pure joke writer, and like I think a lot of
Rock, you said.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah.
I get no respect.
Yeah, and I think everyone knows him for the like, I told my doctor I want to stop aging. He handed me a gun. Like one-liners that are just like that good. But most people know him from short stuff or like late night performances are mostly what has stayed in the public consciousness. If you actually listen to an album or watch a Rodney Dangerfield special, he does longer material. There's this album, and I think it might just be the like I Get No Respect. I forget which album it is. I wish I could like immediately find it for you right now. But
he's also sorry.
Well, hang on. Let me just finish the thought, which is he has this album where he talks about this concept of the heaviness, which is basically him talking about having depression, and he does this whole long bit at the end of the album, which is like not one-liners, and there are laughs throughout, but he does this big bit, and he never says the word depression, but he talks about like waking up with this heaviness in his chest and taking a shower and being weighed down, and it's really interesting that like a lot of his club performances, my understanding is that it wasn't just rapid fire one-liners, that he was actually, especially like a guy who got famous for being miserable, who was actually depressed, and would like go on the Tonight Show and be like, I want to kill myself, and they would kill. Like he actually, I feel like that maps really well because it was his real pain. Like he wasn't just doing these sad sack jokes. He was genuinely a depressed person or like a struggling person, like a person dealing with depression.
No, I actually love that. I think now that you've mentioned that, I think that does match. And in fact, I think one of my favorite Rodney Dangerfield jokes, and I might get this wrong, was he goes to the dentist and the dentist basically says he's got to clean his teeth better because he has yellow teeth. He's like, Doc, what do I do with my yellow teeth? He goes, wear a brown tie. I'm just like, what?
Great. I love that.
I think
that's such a great joke.
When you're referencing early Rodney Dangerfield, he actually started off as Jack Roy.
Yeah.
And, that's what the long form stuff. And then he quit and then sold aluminum siding, but kept writing for 10 years and then came back as Rodney Dangerfield. And then that's where you saw the one-liner stuff happening. But
and he was also writing for other comics. Like we don't have a full record of that because it was such a hush-hush thing at the time. But in that time, he like as Jack Roy or under another pen name, I think he was like writing for apparently some of the major comedians of that era. But like there's basically, it's all hearsay. There's no way of really tracking down which jokes he wrote or what he did. But I was gonna say the other comedian, a more contemporary example, reminded me of is Eddie Pepitone. Do you know Eddie Pepitone?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And Mark Maron had him on a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're all friends.
Mark kept like trying to sell the fact that Pepitone was one of the funniest guys in comedy. And then he would have him on. He just sound like a mook, like some kind of gangster. And I'd be like, I don't know what's funny about this guy, but I would have to see him to find out why he's funny, you know?
Well, yeah,
like,
I would say you have to see his stand-up to know if his stand-up is funny. That's a reasonable reaction.
I know, I mean, of course, that makes sense.
But he also is constantly being antagonized by Mark Maron. I feel like he doesn't get a fair shake on that because Maron's constantly trying to bait him into like an argument, which I think is funny.
You see, Mark Maron's, to me, his podcast started out in a way where I was like, oh, this is heartfelt. He's trying to like, you know, make amends with other comedians. And now I don't even know if he listens to anybody he talks to. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Well, Pepitone is a guy who I think he's like a deeply funny person, but he is very much the kind of guy who's like having a meltdown on stage. He's like constantly exasperated.
My God.
You know, he's like a Buddhist, but he's screaming all the time. Like he's got a lot in common. And also it's just kind of the accent that I imagine Chestface having.
I get it. I love it. Yeah.
I didn't catch this. Eddie Pepitone was in Old School the first time I watched it, and I just watched it a couple weeks ago.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
There's one of the frat guys in there.
That's so
I
funny.
didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's on like one of the first seasons of Last Comic Standing, and then I didn't see him for a long time after that. I mean, he moved from New York to LA, but I hadn't just heard of him in a while, and he kind of had a resurgence. There's a good documentary about him called The Bitter Buddha.
The Bitter Buddha. All right. Yeah. Well, Vito texted me that the comedian that I did the cover and comic for was Mitch Fattel, and the album was Super Retardo. There you go. Hey guys, I want to thank everybody who showed up and took part. Chris, thanks for rocking out the chest face jokes. Oh, look, Nat drew a chest face as well. That's pretty awesome. I love it.
Working on the perspective.
It's fantastic, man. It's great.
Thank you. I want to give him a sneer.
No, man, love it, man. And again, everybody, thanks for showing up.
Let's thank
Vito
Bob Fingerman for showing up earlier.
Yep, for
and,
Bob
helping us out.
Yep, and this was a lot of fun. And I mean, if you want to revisit and down memory lane and play our podcast, you can play it again. So and Whitney, thank you again also for being there.
Sure.
And that's it. I guess we're going home. We're gonna get some dinner tonight, right?
Yeah, let's first of all, let's get everybody to plug their social media, their website, whatever you want. Nat, where can people find you?
Sure, I'm at Nat Towsen on everything. I don't use Twitter anymore, but mostly look for me on Instagram or anywhere else. Towsen is my last name, but the most important thing to remember is to come see my show, April 26th. Nat Towsen, The Thinker at Art NY. Nat Towsen, The Thinker at Art NY is what you will Google to get that link. My name is Nat Towsen. Thank you so much for having me.
Chris, where can everybody find you?
I am on Instagram at Big Business 411, which is actually my birthday, April 11th. So Big Business 411. I also have a Substack, and just I'm out there and doing comedy and just getting updates and stuff like that. I follow Dean and Whitney, and I post stuff when I interact with them too. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt Champagne. Where can we find you?
Remain Champagne on Instagram. I'm going to be in a couple of episodes of a new show called Government Cheese with David Oliolio. I should really learn how to say his last name. David Oliolio, that guy. And I play an evil white corporate guy, which I'm very good at playing. I'm very good at playing that stuff.
Whitney, where can we find you online?
Oh, well, whitneymatheson.substack.com. And then at Bix later this month, I'll be sharing a table with Dean and hopefully, if it arrives from the printer in time, debuting a book of 23 short stories.
Yes.
Called
The Feeling.
Peter, our winner, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at Peter Rostovsky, and then also my website, peterrostovsky.com, and occasionally on Facebook.
George, how about you? Where can we find you online?
Off the grid, saving my mental health.
Very good.
He will text you about TV shows, though.
That's true. If you want to text me about Mayor of Easttown, I'm happy to have a discussion about it. Just finished. Mayor of Kingstown as well.
It's funny because like sometimes George will text me. I'm like, why don't you just write on a comment on my Substack or something? I realize he is not a part of that world at all.
Good for you.
Good for you, man.
All right, Dean, upcoming, we have a couple of guests that I want to announce. We have Ray Anthony Height next week from Midnight Tiger and the Power Company at DC. We have Neil Clyde coming up in May and Sean Isaacs coming up in May. We have a lot of people coming on. So next week, Ray Anthony Height. Let's give it a yay, yay.
Yay, yay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.